All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Happy Wednesday to you all. And we have an exciting webinar for you. So I'd like to get things started. My name is Taryn Picard. I'm the Senior Sales Manager for the U.S. Direct Sales team. I have been selling data loggers for a little over 8 years. Absolutely love our HOBO products. And I'm really happy to share with you some of the interesting insights to our water monitoring products today. So this webinar is going to approximately run about 45 minutes. We are going to try to save about 15 minutes at the end. So about 30 minutes of us giving you lots and lots of information. And then at the end, we'll try to answer some of your questions. So you go right ahead and type those into the questions section of the panel. You should see that there. And we will do our best to answer them for you. This webinar is being recorded. So for your viewing pleasure, you can watch it over and over and over again. We will send you a link that will, in a follow-up email that you will be able to click on and listen to the recording. So a little bit about who we are and what we do. So in that lovely building labeled as Onset, that is where we actually manufacture, design, and assemble all of the data loggers we ship out all across the world. We have been in business for a little over 40 years. This is our 40th birthday we're celebrating this year. And we're located on Cape Cod. We do our best to distribute products across the world by teaming up with some international partners that help us get those data loggers shipped all over the place. So the agenda for today, we're going to talk to you a little bit about what is a data logger, how to use a data logger, how to select the best data logger for you. We'll review some measurements and some applications. We'll talk about how you can collect your data logger data, and then we'll get into some deployment tips. At the end, we'll review a use case and an application story, and of course, we will try to answer some questions for you. So it is my great pleasure today to introduce Eileen Sander. She is a senior application expert here at Onset. She's been servicing our customers for over 23 years. She is an excellent resource to our researchers, consultants, government agencies, universities, anyone really looking at a wide range of different environmental monitoring applications, anywhere from water, wind, land, air. Eileen has it covered. Welcome, Eileen.
Thanks very much for joining us today. Taryn, will you launch this poll question? We wanted to get an idea on how many of you are currently using data loggers, and I will try and cover questions as we go along.
Absolutely. All right, Eileen, that poll question is launched. And keep in mind, everybody, today is data logger basics. So we are covering the basics of data loggers. If you're looking for more of a high level experience, we also have a recorded webinar called Ask the Experts, and hopefully we'll be hosting another Ask the Experts again in the future. But of course, if we don't get into any of the in-depth application questions you have today, you can always give our application team a call. Or if you have the products already, you can always call our technical support team. All righty, I'm going to go ahead and close out the poll. It looks like the results are in. Fantastic. And I'll share those results. So we have a lot of people using HOBO data loggers. All right, thank you. Woohoo, we love to see that. A couple of people who are coming to us from some other data logger companies, and 31% who are not using data loggers. So excellent. Thank you all for joining us today. And we will go from there, Eileen.
We are going to start with the basics on what is a data logger. And primarily, it is, of course, an electronic instrument. It's going to record measurements at a logging interval that you select, time, date stamped measurements over a period of time. Now, typically, these are fairly small, not our weather stations, where you see a couple pictures on the right, would be the largest at about 8 inches by 6 inches. They have their own internal batteries, microprocessors, of course, data storage and memory, and sensors. Data loggers can be deployed indoors, outdoors, where you're using a weatherproof model, or underwater. And of course, they can record data for many years at a time without you having to be there, which is a nice time-saving feature. And bear with me 1 second. There we go. All right, how to use a data logger. No matter if it's an indoor or an outdoor or a water data logger, the first thing you're going to do is decide how are you communicating with it. And you're downloading and installing software either onto your computer or onto a mobile device. You're going to connect your data logger and you choose your launch parameters. Recently, I've been kind of explaining it as though you were setting up a calendar appointment, which we're all getting comfortable with on our smartphones. You are going to place your data logger in a desired location. So for example, is it underwater? Is it outdoors? Wherever you want to record data. And when you are ready to read it out, you're going to either reconnect it with a USB cable to a mobile device, or we also have web-based access. You'll download your data file, you're going to read it out, and you're going to save your data file so that you can share it and do your software analysis. Now, how you're going to choose a data logger, the first question I would ask if you were calling us for help is, what do you want to measure? And I'd probably ask you to describe ideally what it is you want to accomplish. What's the goal? Where do you need to place it? And for how long? Some people are doing short-term studies and want to do a quick test. Some are in areas where they don't have easy access, and if you have cellular or Wi-Fi or Ethernet communication, for example, you can access the data that way. Or you can set up a standard, fairly low-cost battery-operated data logger to record for a period of time that you decide, I'm going to go back and collect this data in 6 months or a year, for example. We always ask, is it a one-time situation or part of an ongoing project? That would dictate how much memory, perhaps how many data loggers, again, how you're going to access that data. And do you have a preference for USB, for cellular service, Bluetooth? And we have Bluetooth, USB access, and of course, web access. Typically, most of these data loggers are very accurate. Precision is like 0.2 of a degree C, which is about 0.5 degree Fahrenheit. What kind of capabilities do you need in that software? For example, are you logging rainfall and you want totalized rainfall, accumulated rainfall, or just taking measurements? Software, how easy is it to use? How long is the battery going to run? And are the batteries user replaceable? A real advantage for many, many people. Some of the data loggers we have a 5 to 6 year battery, and those are usually factory replaceable. So that dictates the cost of ownership. If somebody can plan a project 5 years out and think, I'm measuring water level, for example, this is going to run for 5 years. I'm not going back until then. Will I have access to the data? Yes, it would run that long. You'd set up your logging interval based on that. And if you have questions when you're reading out your files or setting it up, is there product support and help? We do have technical support for the life of the product. Some of the typical measurements, water temperature, of course, which is included on every data logger that we make for underwater. If you're doing a water level measurement, you are also going to have a water temperature. If you're going to have a conductivity, we have fresh and salt water, the conductivity salinity loggers, they are also going to measure temperature. Dissolved oxygen also is going to give you temperature. Water flow, several ways of calculating that. It can be done with a standalone data logger. It can also be done automatically through one of the web-based stations for true ease of use. pH also is going to give you temperature. Light intensity, we have general purpose light intensity for underwater measurements that would of course also include temperature. And they're used basically for perhaps eelgrass studies, for plant type studies in maybe more shallow locations. Other signals that we can accommodate for even water is 4 to 20 milliamp. People could theoretically be attaching a flow meter, which could be a 4 to 20 milliamp signal, or a pulse, which would give you a totalization from a flow meter. Those are done with our web-based stations. And the 0 to 24 volt DC signals are always an option. How you're going to collect the data. There's two main categories I've touched on. You have standalone data loggers. These are all battery operated. User replaceable batteries on many of them. They are affordable and self-contained. By that we mean, for example, on the left you're seeing a polypropylene case for a water level logger. Those are $2.99. It's measuring pressure and water in the stream. The entire thing can go in that stream. And you're going to read it out by connecting to an optical reader on your computer. Bluetooth is going to be set up Bluetooth to a smart device, and that is a free app to your phone. All the way on the right, we have the station loggers, the options for cellular or Ethernet, remote access. They will also give you alarm notifications. A little bit more detail about the standalone loggers. When you're setting them up, you have an optical reader which connects to your computer with a USB port, or to your computer with Bluetooth or a smart device. They're, again, very accurate. Every data logger, whether it's dissolved oxygen, pH, conductivity, water level, temperature, has an accuracy spec. Those are all published and easy for you to access. We are going to cover how to deploy some of these, and they are fairly easy to deploy. They are durable, and we expect you to have a long life out of all of them. And again, some have factory replaceable batteries. The pictured pendant MX temperature data logger is temperature only at $54. It has a user replaceable battery that's going to communicate to your smart device, and it will record for as long as you want based on the logging interval that you select. We'll give you a little bit more detail on that in just a moment. The slide on the right is showing, at the top is showing your Bluetooth communication, of course, with the phone. On the bottom is that physical optical reader. Those are for our some of the standalone water level and water temperature and conductivity data loggers and dissolved oxygen loggers. HOBOware Pro is used for all of the USB data loggers, for data assistants, which are available for certain data loggers, such as conductivity, water level, where you will put in a few parameters. We're showing a screenshot of using the conductivity assistant. So you will put in some of those temperature compensation measurements, and we have a walkthrough, nice, easy calibration for you to set up. Same thing on water level, where we've got a barometric pressure compensation data assistant. You're going to access barometric pressure from a separate file, which you would use as your default pressure reading. Your data file is going to show you water temperature, water pressure, and water level to the hundredths of a foot. On the Bluetooth data loggers, these are really nice and easy to use. The first time we came out with this, I thought, oh, another program to learn. And the second time I did it, I went, oh, this is great. Within 100 feet of the data loggers, it would automatically find any data logger that's within range. So when we say with no pairing required, as soon as you open the app, it is going to find the data loggers that are within range. You are going to tap on each device to connect to it. And as you can see, it will display a name or the serial number so that you know what data logger you are speaking with. You're configuring it as though you're setting up a calendar appointment. You can set up the hours, the minutes, and the seconds. It would tell you how long it will run based on that logging interval. So you can change that, test it, and make sure if you think, well, I'm going to visit it in a month. Let's see how it does. And I'm not going to visit it for 6 months. Set it up accordingly so that it can continue to log, or you can tell it to stop when full. And again, of course, you could password protect it so that no one else except you have access to making any changes on how you're setting that up. On a pH data logger, for example, any of those loggers are going to walk you through a calibration process. These are very nice, easy to use systems. And again, if you do need help, we have details in each manual, and we do have tech support. Your data file is always going to show you a graph, but it gives you options for how you want to view that. If you want to take a moment and click on one of the dashboard widgets, you would see a bit of temperature moving, for example, in real time. And then you can decide how you're going to save that data logger plot. Are you shifting it to Excel? Are you sharing it with a CSV file? People like our HOBOware files, so sometimes they'll send it to that, especially if they're comparing data from years ago when they were using our HOBOware software, and they like it and they want to compare it on that with that option. We've touched on getting access via the web, which has certainly in the last few years really become an important method for gathering the data. We came out, I think 2 years ago now with our RX 2100 station. So we kind of called it our lower cost option. It has 5 plug-in ports, but you're going to access the internet through a cellular service and a cellular plan. It has a built-in 1.7 watt solar panel, which typically is enough for most applications. If you needed a larger panel, that can be added to it. And those would be in areas, if you're in maybe forested areas, you think it could be in shade more often than not, so you could add a larger solar panel. These all, again, have built-in batteries. They all have built-in storage. You would not lose data. It is stored on that logger. We've got one of the MicroStation choices that has built-in barometric pressure for monitoring water level and flow calculations. So these can be placed with different types of weirs that will do the flow calculation automatically with some built-in assistance. An RX 3000 station, we're showing that they were used on buoys in the past. These were put in Cape Cod Bay in particular, doing some monitoring close to shore where they had cellular access. But these can also be used via Ethernet or Wi-Fi if you're on a building top or outdoors on a college campus. So you are accessing the web to get to our cloud-based HOBOlink software, which is where you're going to save and view the data. The RX 3000 gives you a lot of flexibility. You can do water level, you can do analog inputs. That's where I initially mentioned pulse inputs or 4 to 20 milliamp if you're adding flow meters. So it gives you the flexibility to add those kinds of channels. There is a relay module available for that unit also. Typically that's added if you want to trigger a switch, could be to turn on an irrigation pump, for example. The RX 3000 station is not a controller. as far as in the true sense of the word for time-based controlling, but it would trigger a switch or send you an alarm based on a sensor parameter. And by that I mean temperature has hit a certain degree, you want to know what water level has hit a certain level, you want to know that. We're showing a couple basic screenshots for HOBOlink. Again, this is our cloud-based software. We're showing a screen where we have a runoff pond outside of our building in Bourne, Massachusetts. We've got several sensors in, along with a water level sensor. This has been in place for quite a while. It was a little bit dormant over the past year where nobody was there. But you can add multiple sensors to this, and this is your basic raw graphs. You can set up for the past day, past week, past month. You can also set up some nice dashboard views to view this data. This gives you kind of a prettier way of looking at this. Some people like to incorporate it to do a quick view of multiple stations. So you could show just the water level if that's the most important piece for you, and the temperature, for example. You are always going to have your raw data file. You can compare water level to rainfall, for example. You can compare your air to water temperature. You have a lot of flexibility on how you want to set these dashboards up. Anywhere you access the internet, so if you're logging onto your browser from your cell phone to do a quick check, you're in the area, you are just logging into your HOBOlink account and you can view that data from your smartphone. And yes, you can set up alarm notifications, again, based on the sensor parameter. It could be wind speed, it could be underwater temperature, it could be water level. And you can send that via text message or email to however many people you choose. This is a brief kind of showing you how the software data assistant is going to walk you through how you're setting up any flow monitoring through HOBOlink. The manuals have details on several different types of weirs, and you'll be able to click through that and enter those parameters. This is where that Lake Onset, right outside our building. We are in Bourne, and you'll see the highway running down the front of the building back to where the Cape Cod Canal and Cape Cod Bay is. If you have multiple stations, you can view them all on a map. You can click on the particular station that you want to see to view your current conditions. How these are used, lots of water quality studies. Sometimes third-party sensors can be added if you're doing just mainly water quality. So water level, of course, is typical. Wetland mitigation, you're adding, we have the dissolved oxygen data loggers that can be added to give you a wide parameter, and temperature sensors, of course. Flood warnings for the water level data loggers in dam management type applications. Stormwater runoff, reconstruction of wetlands. Some places are removing dams for fish health and trout restoration. So the flexibility of our stations, it just depends on where you're placing these. We're giving you a few tips. Any of the standalone sensors. So for example, for dissolved oxygen, conductivity, water level, you want them mounted in such a way that they're protected. That picture is showing you a housing that we designed just to simply have an easy to use housing that is cable tied in. It's got holes pre-drilled into it Many people just use slotted PVC, of course, or you can do multiple data loggers in one setup. It's giving the data loggers a little bit of extra protection. It helps keep them clean, and it helps you find them again. The note about facing vertically is typically on the conductivity loggers, so you don't get bubbles collecting on the sensor. A little tap or protecting that gives you accurate readings from beginning to end. And again, you can use housings that we design, but our customers have been very creative in how they're setting this up, and I've got a few examples coming up. And ideally, the main thing here is you want to be able to mount them so they are stable. A water level logger should not be moving up and down. Even a temperature data logger, if you have it secure, you're going to have a longer life. And you're having water flow over it, so you can mount it securely at the bottom. For example, a temperature light data logger might be mounted in a cinder block and pointing upwards to give you accurate light readings, but you want it stable. If it's moving in the water, you're going to have a lot of variation. Advantages to having something down on the bottom of a creek or a lake or a river, especially if there are people using that. You want to make sure there's nothing sticking up out of the water. And it helps reduce vandalism, of course, and keeps out of the way of boat traffic for safety. Mainly, you want to be able to find them again. Markers, signs, GPS, of course, taking pictures now that you're carrying your cell phone to do some of these deployments, and you can also read out your data logger is a nice option. Here's a couple other methods for designing your mountings. Stilling wells, again, can be some slotted PVC pipe. They don't always have to be completely vertical, but you want your data logger itself in water and suspending it to the top so you can access it again. Using the protective housing, they're anchored onto rebar. Again, you have water flow, you could have debris, anything that can help protect that logger, because keep in mind, you have a battery, you have electronics inside. These are quite rugged and durable. We experience long life from these, but again, taking just some kind of general good practices for mounting these to find them again is always a good idea. For the water level loggers, we have the Bluetooth water level, and we have the RX web-based. We do provide a cap. You don't necessarily need our cap if you have your own, but this is just one that gave a nice opening to the top to record the water level through Bluetooth and have your sensor nicely routed through that well cap. It's an option. It is not a necessity. We do have a few use cases. Typically more and more with all the storms recently in the last several years, having access to the water level and rainfall from dams and being able to monitor that has been extremely valuable for cities and any of the agencies who are using these data loggers. They know whether they need to issue any warnings, send someone to the site, but this gives them the ability to notify anyone they want on what the water level is and what's happening during a storm event. That picture was showing a particular company that or state that was doing this. They were using the micro water level station. Again, cellular, web-based, nice price, really accurate, includes your data plan. It includes it's like getting a data logger with a SIM card in it. It has the non-vented water level sensor, and again, mounted through maybe that slotted PVC to the surface. Your water level station, the RX itself, is really rugged and durable in a NEMA case. So it is going to support those measurements for a long period of time. The results on using these stations gave them cost savings. They did not have to send people to the site. They were able to respond quickly when they saw that the water level was changing, or they could, with comfort, say, everything's looking good. We don't have to send anybody to this site at this moment. And again, you'll see they can view that and set up alerts and alarms to view it on an iPad, to view it on your browser. The Billion Oyster project, more of a water quality for restoring oysters in New York Harbor. This project started back in 2014 and has continued through the years. They have a lot of volunteer groups. If you do go to their website, they have quite a bit of detailed information, and had started using our dissolved oxygen logger, which was ideal for showing how well the habitat and cleaning up the pollution was helping restore the oyster population. They used the salinity, the dissolved oxygen, and the pH data loggers. They could easily move those around as they were working on different areas and share that data. And you'll see we have some nice comments and feedback from the people who are using this and sharing it. They're easy enough to use that they can have volunteer citizens groups setting them up, reading them out, and just sending that data. And a few more screenshots, sorry. I checked their project just the other day, and they have 15 active reefs over the 5 boroughs, and they have restored 47 million oysters. We do now have time for some questions, and we'd be happy to cover whatever we can answer. Taryn, do you see any questions in particular?
I do have a good one here, Eileen, and I'll leave it up to you to answer this one. So one of the questions was, how does sediment affect a temperature logger? And I think this is where it really gets important to talk a little bit about the mounting and how we foresee that possibly causing an issue.
Yeah, sediment is probably going to affect perhaps a water level logger more, but you are going to be taking the temperature of the sediment and maybe not the actual water moving around it. We might say something, suggest something that instead of having it at the bottom of your deployment piece, that you have some PVC, slotted PVC. You can use landscape fabric to give a little space around it to help keep out some sediment. I am going to click to the next slide to give you some contact information. We'll continue to take some questions, but I wanted to give you some contact information. If you do need to email us separately, you can certainly feel that you can do that. But anytime you're in any area, your data loggers for temperatures, they're going to read where they're located. Having good water flow around them is important. Sediment isn't going to typically damage any data logger. If you want to be reading the temperature of sediment, that is one thing, but you probably really want the water level, and you want to get it above that sediment. You might want to dig down a bit, and again, do a deployment with some slotted PVC and use some landscape fabric at the bottom.
Awesome, thanks, Eileen. Can you talk a little bit about the difference between our water level loggers, which are non-vented water level loggers, versus, I guess, in general vented? And I'll I'll clarify that by saying we don't sell vented water level loggers, so we're not the experts in that area, but we certainly can tell you more about our non-vented version.
Yeah, the non-vented is really very convenient because you don't have to worry about vent tubes kinking and clogging and being cut and damaged. So we do not use the vented loggers typically.
Awesome. And then can you talk a little bit about, so kind of just reviewing HOBOlink and the fees associated with HOBOlink. I guess I'll clarify by saying we only charge fees for HOBOlink in the sense of we charge an annual fee for our cellular stations. So there isn't a per se fee for HOBOlink. There is what we call a cellular fee to collect cellular data, and that's related to the SIM card that's installed in those devices. So we do have stations that operate on Wi-Fi or Ethernet, but those are not going to have a fee associated with them, and you still have access to HOBOlink. So again, there's really no fees. As far as our software goes, we have our HOBOware Pro, which most of the folks on this call today are definitely going to want to use. It has massive time-saving features for you. It's $99, and that is the price you pay once, and you are an owner of that software for life. You get free updates of that software. So I know everyone on this call has valuable time. So for $99, trust me, you're going to want to go with the Pro version if you're monitoring anything like dissolved oxygen, conductivity, water level. pH is different. Sorry, pH is HOBO Connect. I know some of you had questions about the difference between HOBO Connect and HOBO Mobile. HOBO Connect is just the new and improved version of our older HOBO Mobile app, and HOBO Connect is free to download, free to use, free. So that is a free software.
Right, and kind of jumping in back to the HOBOlink plans, you can choose the annual plan on cellular. There's an annual plan, and it depends how fast you want to get updates. So if hourly updates are good, it's $150 a year, and this is for the RX station plans and having at least 20 sensors. It's $250 a year if you want to set up unlimited alarms, for example, for frost monitoring, and it updates you every 10 minutes. And that's typically used for the water level microstation as well. Getting unlimited alarms would be important, and updating every 10 minutes, and it would update you faster if you had set an alarm. So that would be a $250 a year annual renewal fee that's easily done online, and that's because that's the cellular service. And there is a 1 minute logging, 10-minute update with even more sensors. Typically, that could be used for an agricultural type application where you're adding soil moisture sensors and you're really doing quite a few sensors with that. I will say all the software is easy to use. People like our software, and we do have free technical support, again, for the life of the product. Our tech support reps can help with detail, and we do have short videos and tech notes for how do I, so we can send some quick links if it's something that you haven't been able to find on the website. We've got some white papers really giving you the details on how some applications were performed. We have Bluetooth setting the water level loggers up for doing flow, and again, certainly help on flow and water level on the micro stations with the cellular service plans.
Excellent, thanks, Eileen. A couple of questions about deploying loggers in freezing conditions. You mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, typically we're going to make sure you've got something that has a battery rating that's going to meet that, and most of them do. For example, a water temperature logger, whether it's we have a Bluetooth, and we also have one of the older USB models, which is really rugged and durable. They're rated down to -40. However, when you're this is where you always want to use some kind of protective housing, something like the slotted PVC or that housing that we showed you earlier. Moving ice can cause stress fractures. And if any of the data loggers, for example, a dissolved oxygen or conductivity or water level is in ice, you're not really getting meaningful data. You're getting data because the logger is in ice. It shouldn't damage it. The logger should survive as long as it hasn't been taking a big hit, for example, but it should not be like in a river that has moving ice. You want to be down below where you still have some moving water. So if you can take some precautions that it's in moving water and not in ice, that's always the best. And we always do help caution people on how to do a deployment that the data logger is going to last for you. Ice can be a really powerful thing. So if you can take it out, take them out. If you can't, just have it down deep enough and have it in a housing that's going to protect it, and it should survive that and continue to record. Especially any of the temperature loggers, like with a longer battery life, they're going to continue to record.
Excellent, thanks, Eileen. So before I have you answer the next question, I just want to give a quick recap here. So our U20 and U20L are our standalone data loggers that are really great if you're trying to monitor a lot of different areas in a very small location, because with these loggers, you can deploy several of them in wells and then use one logger in air for barometric pressure. So now getting into which logger, Eileen, would you recommend for monitoring barometric pressure?
Oh, you could always use a second U20L in the 13-foot measurement range. It's going to give you the most accurate reading. We're talking hundredths of a foot, but you could use a U20L on the 13-foot range in air. You can use a stainless or a titanium U20L in air for barometric pressure. You can use a nearby weather station. Typically, we say if it's within 10 miles, that is going to be accurate enough to give you good readings. And if you're using a nearby weather station, for example, as soon as you save that data file, and let's say you save it to your desktop and you use that as your default, the HOBOware Pro software will remember that, and it will access that and say, is this what you want to use? And it's going to give you a few click-throughs of, yes, I'm in freshwater or I'm in saltwater. I'm using this for barometric pressure. Another click, it will plot your data and do that barometric compensation assistant for you. We have a white paper on that, and of course we have details in every product manual. We have a quick start guide, which I usually love to send to people. Gives you a nice general overview and idea on how you want to use this. And then the manuals fill in with quite a bit more detail. I also always tell people, before you head to your field site, sit at your desk and you're going to unpack this. You're going to take a look at it. You're going to make sure you've got your software, you're comfortable with it, open it up, do a quick little test, set it up to record, and then head to your field site. That way you always know you're ready to go, and your time for setting up in the field is valuable, and you can do it faster because you already have a comfort level with how you want to set this up, and the software will remember.
Great, thanks, Eileen. And Patrick, I just want to point out pretty much all of the water level loggers we offer, actually I shouldn't say pretty much, all of the water level loggers we offer can certainly be used for groundwater monitoring. They're not surface level monitoring products. So any of the products we've mentioned today are an absolute great fit for your application. And certainly to everyone on the webinar still with us, I just want to emphasize thank you for your lots and lots and lots of questions here. I frantically have been trying to type to answer most of them. However, you guys did a fabulous job of being interactive and just hammered me with a million questions at the end there. So I do apologize. I am trying. but there's no way I will be able to get back to all of you. So I do want to let you know if we didn't get to your question today, we will be following up with you. Give us some time. We will have a application expert reach out to you. If you have our product already, okay, so if you have our device already, I just want you guys to know the best thing you can do is reach out to our technical support team if you need help. I know there were a couple of questions about data files, formatting of data files, exporting data. We have a free, again, going back to, feel free to reach out to them for assistance with that. If you need help selecting your logger, give us a call. We're here to help you. The application team is more than happy to talk to you. And yes, everyone has a very unique application. I have heard it all. Probably haven't heard it all. I shouldn't say that. But we are really excited to be there for you and to talk through your application. As unique as it may be, we can certainly give you guidance and support trying to pick the best logger for your application. And with that, I will say we will also be sending out a survey, so please take a minute to fill that out. We hope you guys enjoyed speaking with us today. Thank you again so much for your questions. And Eileen, great job. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we will see you next time.